Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. We've got multiple news items to discuss in today's episode, including the much talked about interview with Kyle Busch on Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast, and one particular thing the two-time champion said that I thought was really interesting. A follow-up to Monday's video, and Kyle Larson responding to Clint Bowyer's major mess-up during his pre-race interview at Kansas. A personal story on an email I received from John Edwards' family recently, and what they sent me in the mail. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt Miller had a call with reporters today on the upcoming Earnhardt docuseries, and one thing in particular stuck out to me. Plus, NASCAR Truck Series driver Toni Breidinger, who has been on the channel several times and will be on again next week, made some news yesterday with her release of her Sports Illustrated Swimsuit photos. And we'll wrap it up with a one-on-one interview with Daniel Suarez that includes some pretty revealing answers. However, before we get to that interview, let's go back to Monday and Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast. He and his former Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Kyle Busch had a really entertaining conversation where it just sounded like two drivers and two old buddies hanging out and chatting about their personal lives and their careers. Something you could imagine them doing off camera over a couple of beers. There have been numerous stories from the podcast that have been reported on in the media this week, including Kyle Busch talking about Joe Gibbs denying him his run at the Indianapolis 500, and how Denny learned so much from Busch on intermediate tracks early on in their careers. But there was one specific thing that Busch talked about that just immediately stuck in my head. When talking about the upcoming All-Star race and the promoter's caution, take a listen to what Busch had to say.
I guess if there's a natural yellow after lap 200, they can't throw it. I think that's the rule.
If there's a natural yellow between lap 200 and 225, there will not be a promoter's yellow. So at lap 200, we all need to figure out who we're going to run into. It's going to be payback central. If I'm running 12th and I've got no shot to win, and there's a few select drivers that are in front of me, I am going to take care of Marcus's yellow.
I'll make sure I'm clear of that.
Now, I have to tell you, listening to that, all I could think back to was last year's All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. Remember that? And what happened afterward when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was waiting at Busch's hauler and all hell broke loose? I'm guessing Busch wasn't specifically talking about Stenhouse when he mentioned Payback Central, because I can only assume that that conflict has been put behind them. But who knows? If it does come down to that and the promoter's caution hasn't been used, it'll be interesting to see who he pays back. Seems like he has a lot to choose from lately, especially after this weekend at Kansas and what I reported on Monday when he said on his team radio, all the drivers were clowns. Speaking of Busch, let's go to a story I also talked about in Monday's video with Clint Bowyer interviewing Kyle Larson. How is Kyle Busch involved? Let me replay for you what happened on Sunday, right before the green flag waved at Kansas.
How about you, Kyle Busch? Or Kyle Larson. Oh, this is going to be a good one already. Kyle Larson, Boyer and the boys up in the booth here at Kansas Speedway. Boy, the Heartland Park, it's been good to you this week. We started it. I feel like I'm going to start over. We're live on television.
Well, Jamie McMurray.
Well, on Kevin Harvick's podcast, Kyle Larson talked specifically about the blunder. Take a listen.
Yeah, I was laughing in my helmet when he was stumbling his way through that whole thing. Like, he never even cleaned it up after he messed up calling me Kyle Busch. So I was just waiting for him to just finish whatever he was going to say. So, no, it was funny.
Absolutely hilarious stuff. Now, let's move on to one of the big headlines from yesterday, and that was Toni Breidinger and her release of her Sports Illustrated swimsuit photos. I don't know if you saw any of them, but here are a couple. I know from a couple of interviews with Toni on the channel last year, she's passionate about being a race car driver, but also has other interests like modeling. She's been on the runway as a Victoria's Secret model. She's now added Sports Illustrated swimsuit model to her resume. For those of you curious, I have her scheduled for an interview next week, so we'll be able to talk more about the photos in the photo shoot and get her thoughts on her first full-time season in the NASCAR Truck Series. Now to some news from today, and that was Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his sister Kelly Earnhardt Miller met with reporters to talk about the upcoming Earnhardt 4-part docuseries on Amazon Prime. There were a lot of really interesting things said throughout the call with reporters, and I specifically had a question that I was going to ask, but someone else got called on and asked it before me. Take a listen.
I noticed on the promo sheet that Teresa's involved in the series. Can you talk about her role?
Yeah, I don't think we know much about that.
Yeah, I don't think either one of us know too much about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
A pretty interesting response. I have actually reached out to Amazon because during the call they said if you'd like to know more about Teresa's involvement, reach out. I've done just that to find out what her involvement was, and I will be sure and report back to you what I find out. Moving on to a personal story. For those of you who may not be familiar, John Edwards was Jeff Gordon's longtime PR man, but he was also a top person in charge of communication at Hendrick Motorsports. More recently, he was Kyle Larson's PR man. In my time covering NASCAR, John was really, really good to me, and I documented that last month after he unexpectedly passed away. Well, I recently received an email from his parents talking about my remarks in the video, and they were incredibly kind. As I told my wife, I see why John was such an incredible person just based on the email from his parents. So this week, they sent me a program from his memorial and this sticker, which you'll see in my videos going forward in memory of John. And I just want to say specifically to the Edwards family, thank you for sending that, and thanks for sharing your son with the world. He will certainly be missed. And finally, let's wrap up with my one-on-one interview with Daniel Suarez. Now, the premise of this interview was to talk about the Netflix docuseries and his involvement, which we did. If you haven't seen it yet, there is one really interesting conversation with his wife, Julia, in the second episode that followed the third race in the first round of the playoffs last year at Bristol, where she didn't sugarcoat what she thought about the Trackhouse team. When I asked about it, Daniel was completely transparent about it, and I think you'll find what he had to say really interesting. Plus, he talks about this season and the struggles of the team and how they're behind. I also asked him about being on the hot seat. Without further ado, here's the Daniel Suarez interview. So, Daniel, when you didn't make the 2023 playoffs, I have to ask, what was it like watching the first season of Full Speed and not being in it?
I didn't watch it. Just kidding. Obviously, you want to be you want to be part of the show, and in 2023 we were just not good enough. We didn't win a race. We struggled a lot as a group, as a team. We had a couple opportunities to win a race, but not good enough. We finished second, and we got a pole position and things like that. But we just needed more speed. And definitely that made us more hungry for 2024.
So you win at Atlanta last year in that crazy 3-wide finish. You lock yourself into the playoffs. When did you start thinking about being in this season's version of Full Speed?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun, to be part of the Netflix show with Full Speed and NASCAR, and to show people, who I am as a person and what I do, outside the racetrack. I believe that a lot of people knows who Daniel Suarez is as a racing driver. They get to see me every single weekend. But who I am as a person, where I came from. I have a very unique background. I would say that the most different background of any other driver in NASCAR. So who I am as a person, how I got here, how I learned the language, all these different things. So it's been a lot of fun to show people who I am through Full Speed.
All right. So in the second episode of this season's version, you're really prominently featured. We see you go bike riding with Julia. But I think the big buzz that I've read online is the third race of the first round at Bristol. And after the race, Julia was frustrated and she didn't sugarcoat those frustrations, talking about sending our boy to war on a donkey with a wooden spoon and asking why the teams aren't working together. So it's obviously a notable quote and great content for the viewers watching the docuseries. But how did you feel when you saw it, and did it create any awkwardness at the Trackhouse shop?
Honestly, I have a little bit more of a filter in some situations than Julia, but at the same time, she's not wrong. Everything that she's saying, she's right, and nothing can say anything about it. At that time, we did a horrible job with the race car. The car wasn't fast enough, and at that time, the teams the 1 and the 99, they were not working together extremely well. So, some people may don't like it, some people may love it, but it's true. And since then, we have done a lot of work in Trackhouse to have the teams working together more. But at that time, we were not doing that job. I love how Julia say things the way they are. Her dad is the same way. So, I think that that shows who she is as a person. We're just talking about it, who show their personalities, and that's Julia, and I respect her for that. I have learned a little bit of the politics in the sport here and there, so sometimes I sugarcoat things a little bit more. That's why I didn't say too much after that race. But the reality is that it wasn't pretty, and it's unacceptable to have a performance like that, especially when the teams are not working together the way that they should.
So then we go to the third episode, and there's like a really sweet, this special tender moment with you and your father picking him up at the airport. Then you take him home and you show him your car collection. Talk to me about that moment and what it's like to know that you'll have that recorded forever and you'll be able to go back and reflect on that special moment with your father.
Yeah, it's definitely very special because once again, people getting to know me as a person. And, since I was a little kid, I grew up working in cars with my dad in his shop. And I grew up in a very humble family with no money. And I always dreamed to have some cars and to have a big garage one day. And to be able to do that now and have my father enjoy that journey with me, thanks to the opportunities that he fought very hard to give me that are in racing. That's amazing. That's the American dream. And that's why I talk about it so much in the show, how important it is to to follow your dreams and to believe that you can do it, and to repay that back to your family, to the people that believe in you first, and that's mom and dad. So, it's I feel very proud to have had that moment with my dad.
All right, so let's shift gears. Let's go to this season. And through the first 12 races, you've got the 3 top 10s, including a couple in the last few races. Talk to me about the 2025 campaign and what kind of grade would you give the number 99 team?
It's difficult. It's difficult, Kyle, because this year, even though that the teams, I believe, we're working much better together than we ever have in the past. I believe that the structure of the team is better than we ever had in Trackhouse. We're lacking a lot of speed. We don't have a lot of speed. We're working very hard to try to find it, but we're behind. Normally, when you're behind, you pay the price, right? And right now, I believe that we're paying the price a little bit of being behind. With that being said, I believe that the 99 team has done a good job in many different things. We have made mistakes. I have made mistakes. But also the reality is that we don't have enough speed to run up front in the week-to-week races. So we have to continue to work. Right now we're in a little bit of a hole, and we have to work very, very hard to get out of that hole. And I can tell you that's what we're doing every single day to be able to get not just the 99 team out of this hole, but the entire Trackhouse.
All right, so I know last week Ross was on Sirius XM and he was talking about the Trackhouse cars having lackluster qualifying efforts, and he used the words, "It's been pretty dark on Saturdays right now. You guys need some light." So you qualified 8th at Kansas, and then I just got finished watching your vlog from Kansas, and you talked about the car was crap. So kind of shed some light to me on, you have a good qualifying effort after you've struggled this year, and then the car is crap. So where's the balance in there?
And that's the problem, Kyle, is that we have to do everything absolutely perfect to be able to be fast. And when I say absolutely perfect, I'm talking about the aero, the mechanical, the striety, all these different things. And for Rossi is not wrong. For the most part, on Saturday, we've been lacking speed. We've been lacking speed. The 99 did an amazing job on Saturday in Kansas. Amazing job. 8th position in qualifying was the best position we're going to be able to do that day. Didn't matter what we were doing. So we did a great job with that. 8th position is not amazing, but it's way better than what we've been doing. With that being said, we made some small tweaks for Sunday and expecting to be close again because we didn't change many things. And the balance was extremely off on Sunday. Extremely off. I mean, I started in the top 10 and I was a lap down at the end of stage 1. And then we made the car better, and then we were able to fight back. And eventually, once we got into the lead lap, we got wrecked for someone else's mistake. But that's the problem, is that our cars right now are extremely sensitive. Like nobody on the entire field is perfect from Saturday morning to Sunday evening. Nobody. Everyone has some tweaks here and there, but the teams that have more speed, they're able to have a bigger circle, and they are able to miss it and continue to have a speed, and then they get back to the center. And if we are not perfect, we don't have a speed. So that's the part that we've been struggling. Obviously, we want to be perfect, and we work very hard for it. But we have to continue to find more speed. So when we are good and not perfect, we can still run okay. And that's the part that obviously we're missing.
Okay, I feel like you've really been considered on the hot seat for the last several seasons. It's like a recurring theme. Last year, you won early at Atlanta, and I felt like that kind of shut down talk about it. Do you feel like there's any additional pressure with Connor Zilich's rise, or do you feel like that pressure is just always there because you've been in this sport for a while and you know firsthand how things can change?
I honestly think that the pressure is on the team. We have to perform. Right now, every driver on the field wants to be with the best possible team. And, we want to compete. We want to win races. And yes, everyone is on the hot seat once in a while. And I've been on the hot seat, if you want it in the last few years. But right now, we have to compete better. We have to find more speed because, I mean, what is the point of competing for 15, 20, 25th? Like, you want to have a shot to win races, and obviously we're working very hard for that, but we know that we have a lot of work to do to be able to get there. We're behind right now, and the hot seat and all those things that all that stuff for me is just noise. Like, it just happens. But at the end of the day, we have to get better as a team, because if we don't get better, guess what? Trackhouse won't want to have me back, and I won't be I won't be happy staying anyway. So we want to be better. It's like a relationship. You in a relationship, if only half of the relationship is working, it's not going to work. But if neither of the sides are working, it's not going to work. So you have to have a healthy relationship. And right now, we have work to be able to get to where we feel that we were, for example, a couple of years ago, where we were competing for top 5s, top 10s in the consistent basis, not just finishing top 10 when half of the field is wrecking.
All right, last question for you, Daniel. So Kelly and Max welcomed their daughter a little over a week ago, and I'm sure you're getting asked now, when is it your turn with you and Julia? So have you talked to Max about Lily, or has he asked you about when you guys are going to join them as parents?
No, I haven't had a conversation with him. Only briefly about Lily. Super happy for Kelly and for Max. A beautiful couple and a beautiful girl that they have. And yeah, I mean, that time will come, but that time is not here right now. I'm sure it's gonna come, but yeah, it's an amazing experience, right? Like, they are super happy. They have many things to be happy and proud of, and I can't wait to meet her. I really haven't met her yet, but I'm sure she's gonna be a beautiful little girl.
All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We covered a lot. So let's start with that Daniel Suarez interview. What in particular stuck out to you? Were you surprised by his remarks on his wife, Julia, and her not having a filter? What did you think about what he said regarding this season and the team's struggles? And what are your thoughts on what he had to say about being on the hot seat? As for the rest of the stories, let me know what you thought about Kyle Busch's comments on Payback Central. And for you Kyle Busch fans, who do you think he might have on his radar at North Wilkesboro? Plus, I'm interested to hear what you guys thought about Kyle Larson's remarks on Clint Bowyer, Dell and Kelly's comments on Teresa's involvement in the upcoming Earnhardt docuseries, and those Toni Breidinger photos. What do you think of having a driver also who happens to be a female, but also has a second career modeling and brings additional attention to the sport in ways that obviously have never happened before? Thanks again for checking out the latest episode. I really and truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.